Fun fact, I actually made this channel a year ago and was fully planning to post my vinyl record collection at that point. I did film it. I showed it to my patrons, but I was so irritated because I kept looking at the song list on the back of the vinyls instead of looking at the camera. So I just never ended up posting it. But you know what? I regret nothing because my collection has significantly improved since that video a year ago. And because my big head is in the way for most of the videos, I get a lot of questions asking what the vinyls are behind me. And so I thought I'd show y'all. For reference, I've been collecting vinyl since I was 15. I also say vinyl as vinyls. That just seems correct to me. Started collecting when I was 15, continued collecting through undergrad, but then when I graduated, I just had nowhere to display them and couldn't really afford to be spending $30 on a record like that for many years of my life. I would say 2/3 of what I have now is from those ages of like 15 to 20. And then the other third is albums I've gotten within the past year and a half, 2 years maybe, which is crazy to say that I've acquired that many in that short of a time frame. But as anyone who collects things, you know that every holiday, every birthday, your family is exclusively going to get you the thing that you collect because they just know that you're going to like that. But let that be a warning to any of you who may be thinking about starting a record collection. Records are fun. I'm so glad that I have them. They are incredibly bulky, hard to store, and nowadays, if you're buying them new, they go from $30 to sometimes $60 for one record. Proceed with caution. It's kind of an annoying hobby, but I'm annoying, so it works for me. I'm going to start with the albums I currently have displayed on my wall. Not this wall, you know, the other wall. And we'll go from there. If you watch my main channel at all, you'll know I rotate the albums I display on a regular basis. And this month, you know, we got a little blue going on for the Teen Vogue party. And of course, one purple one because this is the only purple record I own and I never get to display it. I think this might actually be one of the first albums I ever got. Past Me had really good taste because this absolutely holds up. This is Cerulean by Baths. I still am into electronic house music type stuff. It's just not as popular these days. 2012 though, it was all the rage. I have quite a few albums like this that I can only describe as music you listen to while you're laying flat on the floor, looking up at your ceiling fan. A little bit psychedelic, just kind of vibey music. And one of those records where you can't just listen to one song, you need to be strapped in and get the full experience. Aminals is definitely the most popular song off of this record, if you've heard of that one, but it's all a hit. This is probably one of my most underrated albums in my collection. You see, the issue is I wouldn't buy an album if I didn't love it, right? So every single time I'm gonna be like, yeah, this is good, if you haven't heard of it. But you need to get into Magdalena Bay promptly if you're not already. One of my favorite albums, one of my favorite groups, one of my favorite album covers as well. Another theme with my record collection you'll notice is I'm really into synth pop. That is my thing. I love the futurism, the surrealist, the alt pop sound of this. In a just world, this would have been 2024 album of the year. Norman fucking Rockwell. I never call it that. It's NFR by Lana Del Rey. I think this and Ultraviolence just are the best she's ever done. I'll be honest, I was not like a hardcore Lana stan, even though she was the most insanely popular woman on Tumblr when I was growing up. And it's not because I wasn't manically depressed like I was, but as I've gotten older, her music has really grown on me. I have a love-hate relationship with Jack Antonoff and his production, but his production works best when he just lets the creative do her thing. If you know anything about Lana, of course, she's very vintage inspired. Love the jazz, love the Joni Mitchell references. Her music is just effortlessly cool, which is something I do not embody whatsoever. So it's a fun escapism for me. Okay, so this album I got secondhand at the Soundgarden, which best record store I've ever been to. There's no way this is officially licensed, right? But I love it. Ballads of Hyrule by Rosen, and it's got some lovely Zelda artwork on the back as well. Love Legend of Zelda. Love the music. It's actually kind of unfortunate because my very first tattoo was the Triforce overlaid with the Deathly Hollow symbol. Thank God that's on my ribs and y'all never have to see that. Really, really puts a stain on the Legend of Zelda franchise, unfortunately. But regardless, I'm a big fan. I listen to so much video game music when I'm working. That's pretty much all I listen to. I was very excited when I found this. It's Steely Dan. Dan bought it. Would you believe? Another Dan album. But I bought him this one, and low-key, it was one of those gifts where you buy something for someone knowing that you also get to benefit. This is TV Girl's French Exit. I'm sure this one doesn't need a lot of introduction. Very big indie pop record. Cannot stress that they were in no way underground when we discovered them. But in 2019, Dan and I were remaking Jenna Marbles' Vegan Garbage Plate, and I was trying to find the song from Ratatouille that is like, you know? And at the time we had one of those Amazon voice activated spies thing. And I asked it to play Parisian music, and I guess it thought French Exit was Parisian music. That's how we discovered, I think, one of our collective favorite albums. You can never make me hate her. Never. Listen, Chappell Roan is a drag queen, okay? And one thing about drag queens is they're allowed to be a little bit messy, to be a little bit annoying. But that's what it takes to make a true pop diva. Y'all don't get it. Y'all can't handle it. I've been along for the ride with Chappell. I first discovered her on TikTok from Pink Pony Club back in 2020. I watched her get dropped from her label. Pre-save kink is karma. I think she's a generational talent. And if y'all bully her out of making a new album, I'll never forgive you. This is a classic one. You can tell this was a 15-year-old me purchase. Lucky that 15-year-olds couldn't get tattoos, because I did see many a Tumblr post with this waveform tattooed on people's wrists. And it absolutely holds up. Like, not all of my purchases from when I was 15 hold up, trust me. Also a good thing I didn't have a child at 15, because I definitely did want to name a daughter Arabella, because that's my favorite song off the record. 15-year-old me could not be trusted with most things, but I stand by this choice. This is a sensitive subject for me, and many of you all, I'm sure. For reference, I'm recording this on April 7th, so we're 2 days away from Pinky Up. Yes, I've heard the leaks. I've seen all the leaks, and I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I think that MIA and Gnarly are genuinely good songs. Game Boy, I really like, even though it's a little bit generic. Gabriella, wildly overrated as a song, but as a performance, I get it. Listen, the girls are so talented, right? They can sing, they can dance, they can perform, they do it all. I don't necessarily follow them for the quality of their music, because let's be real, they are given some rough material to work with at times. And if Hybex Geffen fumbled these girls, I'll never forgive them. This is one of 2 Ghibli movie records that I own, and I bought this one first because I do love My Neighbor Totoro. I love it so much. I then discovered that this is the worst variation I could have gotten, because the other one had Totoro on it. Like, love the cat bust down, but this is just kind of the one I would have wanted the least. But also the Ghibli vinyls are way overpriced for what they are. So they're like 50, 60 bucks. I'm not going to buy a different one. That's just dumb. The one vinyl I don't have currently that I really, really want is Kiki's Delivery Service, which is my favorite Ghibli movie, even though I understand that on an objective level, it's not the best Ghibli movie. That's the other thing if you're going to get into collecting. It is 10 times more fun to go into your local record store not knowing what you're going to get, and then stumble across an album that maybe you haven't listened to in a few years, but you really, really loved. Get back into it, take a shot on a random $1 used record from the 70s. Like, that's the way to go about collecting, and I have not found Kiki's out in the wild just yet. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is just a staple record, not just in rap, but really any modern music. It's been sampled many times going on afterwards, and there's a reason why. This was also one of the first vinyl. That doesn't sound right. One of the first vinyls that I purchased. This is another top 10 album for me. Very wintry. Something about it kind of gives academia in a way. I don't really know why. And I also feel like that maybe isn't a term that should apply to music. I also love a lot of songs not off this album from Vampire Weekend, but Hannah Remains, I think, my favorite Vampire Weekend song. It's so funny that not only do I own this, I also have an axolotl that I named Dart based on Stranger Things, but then I just stopped watching after season 3, and it turns out that may have actually been a wise choice. One thing I will say though, the music in Stranger Things has always been a main character. This music so clearly captures the 80s spooky small town sci-fi weirdness that is season 1, which is a stellar season of television, even if apparently the rest of the show didn't seem to hold up that well. So, you know what? I stand by this purchase. Why does Maddie Healy have to be like that? No, because it like actually pisses me off, because I love the 1975's music so much. But man, Maddie Healy just can't keep his dang mouth shut. I'm also sure color variance in vinyl was a thing in the mid-2010s, but I don't really remember it being as big a deal as it is now. But the standard edition of this record is transparent. So this was kind of the only non-black vinyl I had for a very long time, which, to be clear, you should definitely get the black vinyl whenever you can if you care about the sound quality. But in terms of matching the aesthetic of the album, it was a good design choice. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. Don't judge. Don't judge before I explain. Listen, it was the vibe of the time. Genuinely, I can't get rid of these because there's so many good 60s and 70s tracks that I adore on both of these, but I don't want to display them because 1, they're ugly, and 2, I just don't want Chris Pratt's face behind me while talking about whatever. Let me give you some examples. Hooked on a Feeling, obviously. Spirit in the Sky. I Want You Back by Jackson 5. Cherry Bomb. My Sweet Lord by George Harrison. The Chain, Fleetwood Mac. By the way, I don't have any Fleetwood Mac, which is crazy. So that's also why I can't get rid of this. I'm sorry, but I'm keeping these. The money was already spent. Low key, high key, I got scammed on this album because if you go on eBay and find it, it'll be selling for a stupid amount because it was a limited run. Sometimes you'll see it up to like $300, which do not spend $300 on this. I found a good deal for it. Someone was selling multiple. It was still obscene, right? But for a hard to find record, it wasn't bad. Accidentally bought it twice. eBay seller refused to let me send the other one back. So I have an extra copy of Over the Garden Wall that I've just been hanging on to because I don't know anybody else who, one, collects vinyl and likes Over the Garden Wall, but I'm going to find that person one day and they're going to get an excellent gift from me. Trying to find a spot where there isn't a glare on these records is really a challenge, but love this series. Rewatch it every fall. Even though I probably spent too much money on this, like I do love it. I do listen to it quite a lot. My other Ghibli records, Spirited Away, kind of needs no explanation. Unknown Pleasures by Joy Division. This album has been screen printed onto so many t-shirts, and it was the kind of thing that you would wear in 2015. And some guy with not only a handlebar mustache, but a mustache tattoo on his finger would walk up to you and say, name 5 songs. And the thing is, I've owned this album for over a decade, right? Still could not name 5 songs from Joy Division because this is, again, one of those records where you have to be laying on the floor, zoning out, getting into the sad gothic energy of it. Joy Division is not necessarily one of my favorite bands of all time, but this record was so unique, not only for the time that it was released, but honestly, there is nothing like it to this day. As a synth lover, a lot of credit goes to this specific album. This is kind of a your favorite artist type of album. You have to listen to it at least once. But again, can I talk about this album in detail? Like, no. I had TikTok back when it was embarrassing for a grown adult to have TikTok. And because of that, I, like a lot of people, discovered an artist named MXM Tune. And I just feel like not enough of y'all are listening to her current work. Like, yes, you've heard Prom Dress. Liminal Space, beautiful bedroom pop, very much my vibe. Excellent album name. Excellent visuals. Maya ate this up, okay? If you have emotional issues, Number One Boy is a great song to listen to. I do quite frequently. Get into it. It's really unfortunate that Ariana had to be so messy in her public life around the time that this album rolled out, because I truly think that if that was not happening, this would be acknowledged, as it should be, as one of the best albums of 2024. And this is the deluxe version of 2025. Also very much underrated. I'm not even like a huge Ariana stan per se. Like a lot of people, I think Thank You Next was an album I listened to over and over and over again the year that it came out, and I honestly still go back to it. Imagine, NASA. I'm pretty sure she hates NASA, but I like NASA. I'm really sad that I'm not going to the Eternal Sunshine tour, but the thing is, I know those tickets are going to be super expensive and hard to get. And I have not been to a concert in many years because the last time I did, I had a big breakdown. And so it's kind of like a big investment where I may just have a panic attack and leave. But Eternal Sunshine did have me tempted because I love this record. Ariana is such a unique pop star because she's so involved in like the production and the mixing, not just her vocals and the lyricism. Her and Max Martin really can make some magic together. To be honest, this also is pretty close to a no skip record for me, except I don't really listen to the back half. I Wish I Hated You, Imperfect for You, or Ordinary Things. The rest of it, the deluxe tracks, excellent. If I had to choose though, Bye and Supernatural featuring Troye Sivan, I am really glad that the K-pop idols made that song go viral because long overdue. Supernatural is a beautiful song. Obviously, I own all these vinyls, so I like them. This may be my favorite of all of them, just in terms of the music. Everybody Wants to Rule the World is my favorite song. I love Tears for Fears. Songs from the Big Chair is a solid EP. Outside of modern music, I think just the 80s is my favorite era. I don't have enough 80s records to represent that, but this is just a quintessential one to me. Next, I have The Hissing of Summer Lawns by Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell is another big influence of a lot of my favorite modern artists. And I chose to get this album in particular because this is kind of like Joni Mitchell's folklore, if you will. She was known as a very confessional songwriter in her early albums. This was an album that she really wanted to surprise people, and she leaned a lot more into fiction songwriting. This album is all a big commentary on the boomer, upper middle class, trophy wife facade, which is, I fear, a very leftist video essay YouTuber thing to like, but I'm nothing if not a cliche. Les Imperatrices? I doubt that was close. This is another album I initially got for Dan, but really fell in love with myself. The production on this album is just so good, you guys. I probably should have knocked it like that. Very disco inspired, very fun, very French. If you have a record collection and you don't have at least one Kendrick album, I am side-eyeing you. But I also feel like that's such a white person who doesn't listen to a ton of rap cliche. To Pimp a Butterfly will always be his best work, but I love when he collabs with SZA. I really need them to make a joint album together because their artistic vision just blends so well together. This album I got from the thrift store, but you can tell because there's this annoying little sticker residue stuck on it that I really don't want to mess with because I don't want to ruin the whole thing. But another, kind of classic vinyl, you need to have at least one Beatles record here. That being said, though, of the Beatles discography, I don't know if this is necessarily the one I would have grabbed if they were all in front of me, but they're classic for a reason. I can't wait to watch 4 separate movies in one day. Obviously, if you're into indie rock in the 2010s, you get a Cage the Elephant album. Without question. One of 2 Leve albums that I own. Leve is so consistent, and I don't mean to say that she makes the same song over and over again, because she definitely doesn't. You can always expect a Leve song to hit, and it's going to sound a certain way, and it's always going to feel a little bit romantic and vintage inspired, and I eat it up every time. Ironically, the one I don't own is my favorite, Bewitched, but I love the other 2. Snoopy is very important to me. I literally have him tattooed on my arm. Not really into Christmas music or Christmas movies. I do make an exception, though, for a Charlie Brown Christmas. So while we're on the subject, it's The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. Between the 2 specials, I think my favorite, definitely, but I'm also just more of a Halloween girly. The melodies of vintage Peanuts cartoons have just stood the test of time. I would say this is 17-year-old me, not 15-year-old me. I'm honestly very glad that Blurry Face wasn't big when I was 14, 15, because I do think I would have been a problem. And Debbie Ryan's husband, he did that one little thing. I think I've only bought an album on eBay 3 times. This is one of the 3, and I regret nothing. It's The Wizard of Oz. I tried to look up why her dress is pink on this specific vinyl production, because I know that there was a version of her dress that was a red and white gingham instead of the blue, but I looked it up and it doesn't look like this, though. So I don't know if it's just because of the Technicolor, people didn't know what color it was going to end up being, so they guessed. It also has their portraits on the back. I love this record design. My grandfather cares about 2 things: watching reruns of football games from the 1970s and the Wizard of Oz movie. It's so serious for him. He would not watch Wicked with us. He does a crazy lion impression, which I cannot do. And so I grew up watching Wizard of Oz literally nonstop. And now I'm sad about Judy Garland again. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm actually a Nepo baby. This is a true fact about me, and I hope that doesn't change anything for you. My great-grandfather had a radio show in LA. Because of that, back in the olden days, radio stations would be sent vinyl records to play on the radio. And so because of that, my great-grandfather and then my grandfather had a very extensive record collection that they would just get from PR and then that they later acquired on their own. When my grandfather downsized a lot of his collection, I swooped up some. I'm gonna be honest, I never play them, not because I don't love these records, just because these records are very sentimental, so I don't want them to deteriorate. We've got Louis Armstrong, West Side Story, Aretha Franklin, and Andy Williams. I am a Breakfast at Tiffany's movie hater, but I do love Audrey Hepburn and I love Moon River. It's a struggle. Not a lot of Halloween-themed albums, and I know there's a debate. This is a Halloween-themed record to me. Another classic 2010s EDM record. I do kind of associate some of this with car commercials. It got a little bit overexposed, this album, in 2017. You listen back to it, and it's so cinematic and atmospheric. You get why it was so big. Guess when I bought this album? I keep it, honestly, because Pedro Pascal is on the cover. I don't know if I'm going to sit back and listen to this record that many times, but it is such a moment in time. And I know Game of Thrones is kind of cringy to think about now, but give it 10 years and maybe this will be the best thing I ever purchased again. We'll see. Oh my God, it's my second Megan from Cat's Eye album. I assume we all agree on this, but this is going to be top 10 record of the 2020s. It just is. SZA just is another generational artist of our time. She's that girl. Love the Princess Diana reference with the album cover. Great album, unquestionably, all around. Okay, so this is the other record I bought on eBay for probably too much money, but because it's well worth it to me, it wasn't too much money. This is A Call from a Dream by Meaningful Stone. Maybe it's just because I'm a Cancer, like the water sign sort of thing, but I am obsessed with the visuals of anything filmed underwater. This album cover really represents the vibe of this record so well. She's a Korean artist, if you don't know. Not K-pop, I guess like K bedroom pop, if that's a phrase, or K indie pop rock kind of thing. If you've heard anything by Meaningful Stone, it might be the hit song Beep Boop Beep Boop, which sounds better than I'm describing it with my tone right now. If you're into Clairo, I think you'll like Meaningful Stone. Before there was the 1975 and Matty Healy, there was Morrissey and the Smiths. The Smiths just are melancholy, and either that appeals to you or it doesn't. And it unfortunately really does appeal to me. You know what? I'm going to talk about these albums at the same time, even though sonically they're quite different, but they do fall again into the 2010 sort of indie rock vibe for me. Man, I haven't listened to a Black Keys song in quite some time. And also in the back is this fun thing. I don't know if the illusion really captures on camera the way it does in person. I was obsessed with the Black Keys as a teenager. Honestly, still not mad at their music. Just kind of the thing that I don't necessarily seek out, but if I'm feeling a little crazy, I'll still put it on. Same with Young the Giants, although I do feel like I have to be a little bit more teen existential dread to listen to this particular album. Doechii. We love Doechii. Queer icon Doechii. I don't really listen to Blackpink or Jennie, but I will listen to Doechii's feature on Jennie's song. In 2011, I think, maybe even 2010, when did Plus come out? I was an early Ed Sheeran adopter. I do really wish that I had Plus, because that's my favorite album of his. And unfortunately, he did kind of peak from there and slowly descend, but this Multiply is an excellent album as well. I will forever mourn early 2010s Ed Sheeran, because something was there that's there no longer. Is Don't my favorite Ed Sheeran song though? That's a tough one. It's definitely up there. Don't is so messy because it's supposedly about Niall stealing Ellie Goulding from Ed Sheeran. I'm pretty sure that both of them deny that ever happened. I don't really care if it did. It just makes for a good song. I would say that this is going to be another top record of the 2020s. I love Clairo's early work when she was more on the indie bedroom pop side. Now that she's gotten a little bit more into the nostalgic vintage thing, I adore as well. And the production is 10 times above what she was doing previously. Seeing the progression in Clairo's artistry has been really fun to watch. And I love this album. I remember doing a what character are you quiz online, just like of any TV or movie. And it did say that I was like a 98% match with Charlie from Perks of Being a Wallflower. And that was the darkest, most twisted read I ever could have received. Everybody Wants to Rule the World is my favorite song. Come On Eileen is my second favorite. And it does sound awkward coming out of my mouth every time I say it. But I guess I have the maturity of a 12-year-old. So I'm really not into like stadium modern country, but I adore the more folksy sound of older country music. And this is a staple of that genre. This record is also in excellent condition, and I got it for $1. Is Addison Rae a great vocalist? No. Is she perhaps referential to the point that it distracts from her own artistry, particularly in her performances? Yes, absolutely. But for a debut album, sonically, I love it. Like, yes, it has very clear inspirations with Britney and Lana, but you know who loves Britney and Lana? I do. I was listening to this album all of last summer, and now that it's getting warm again, I'm probably going to start listening to it again. This is another purchase by Dan, and it's Hippocampus, but I forget which album it is. Flood by Hippocampus. They are very much a progression of music I liked from the 2010s. But I don't know, I like their songs well enough, but none of them stick with me. By comparison to many of the albums I own, it's fine. Classic Tumblr 2010s Bandcamp guy, Jake Bugg. If you were into Arctic Monkeys, you were most definitely also into Jake Bugg. Lightning Bolt, of course. Honestly, I checked back recently to see if he's still making music. He is. His sound has not changed, and honestly, I don't blame him. He kind of nailed it on the first try. I am surprised of like the 2010s indie rock artists that we don't hear more. He was not an underground artist by any means, but I just feel like when you think back on 2010s music, like people don't mention him. A crime. This was another album I got for $1, I think at the last bookstore in LA, actually. I'm not as crazy about Elvis as I used to be, but I definitely did go through a big Elvis phase. Was the man problematic? Well, yes. Yes, he was. He's got some fun beats, though, you can't deny. All right, last few albums. I think I definitely saved best for last. These are These are also really good. Loved Beach House in the 2010s, still love Beach House to this day. This is Depression Cherry, which I have since discovered that they no longer produce it in this like velvet cover anymore. I think they did that because it fades. You can see that the lettering has faded. It's kind of the same feel as those Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes we were all obsessed with that also looked gorgeous when it came out of the box, but looked really, really ugly after the first time that you used it. I would take this over the new holographic version they sell any day. Aesthetics aside, has held up beautifully. Also one of those records that I tend to listen to as a whole. Even though Space Song is my favorite, the whole album is my favorite because it's just big synth sound, very vibey, for lack of a better word. Gorgeous, gorgeous album. Bon Iver's self-titled, I believe. Bon Iver I exclusively listen to in the fall. It's a great experience every single time. I know everyone is annoyed at Timothée Chalamet with his latest press tour that ended in him not even winning an Oscar, but I did really like that one interview where he asked Gwyneth Paltrow if she liked Wise Blood.
And she has the most beautiful voice. I'll text you a song.
Do you know Way's Blood?
Who?
Way's Blood.
What's
She's
that?
She's kind of like in the Lana Del Rey world a little bit. That's like Americana. She did a voice on Marty Supreme. She like did some of the background vocals. But I'm gonna check out
Bonnie Raitt. And I'm gonna check out
Way's Blood.
Way's Blood.
But he pronounced it Way's Blood, which had me panicking, thinking I had been mispronouncing it. But no, he just confidently said it wrong, which to be fair, I probably said multiple things that are incorrect in this video, so can't blame him. First of all, one of the most beautiful album covers of all time, truly. And it's not CGI, it's not AI, it is a full furnished room that they shot underwater, and it's sick. Wise Blood is very Kate Bush inspired. She actually does have a cover of Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush. She's got all the haunting, spooky vocals. She's also very Joni Mitchell inspired, which is ironic because I think her dad dated Joni Mitchell. She's another one of those artists where you just have to listen to the whole album. She's got a really cool cinematic, futuristic, but also like optimistic sound that feels very out there and experimental. Movies, I think, is her biggest song off this record. Just listen to that alone. It is transcendent. It is so cool. Leon Bridges is another artist that I love to listen to in the fall. He's very retro, sort of 60s inspired, soul inspired. I feel like his first album is just straight up soul. This is his second album, which is a little bit more contemporary, but it still very much gives the vibe of a retro American South summer, if you will. I know I said that I listened to him in the fall, but this album feels like summer, okay? It's my review. His sound is just timeless. That's kind of the only way to describe him. Underrated artist, Matilda Mann. One of her more recent songs did go big on TikTok. Too Weak of a Word. You heard that one? That's her. She's got a little bit of a Clairo meets Maggie Rogers kind of sound. It's hard to describe this album because this was her debut, and you can definitely see that she's still experimenting with her sound in a way. Like some of her songs feel a little bit more folksy, others are more on like the indie rock side, but it still feels cohesive as a record. She is definitely an artist to watch. Like she is going to blow up so big in like a year or two. Just come back to this video and tell me that I was right. I'm actually really glad that we're ending on Lynn Lapid because one, she's a Baltimore girly and we always have to support the locals. But also I have returned to this album in the past 2 or 3 months. Lynn Lapid went viral on TikTok for Music Man or Producer Man. If you were on TikTok in 2020, you've definitely heard that song. This record is not really like that at all. Another indie pop rock that I absolutely adore, but it also kind of leans into jazz in the second half. It kind of gives Sabrina Carpenter on some of the later songs, Death Wish and Buttons especially. I love this album in particular because it has a theme and a story, and it has really nothing to do with romance at all, but such a strong artistic vision that I really relate to. So this is the story basically of Lynn's experience moving from Baltimore to LA and navigating friendships as an adult, feeling like she can fix her problems if she moves to a new place, only to discover that you can't really escape yourself in a new environment, or a lot of early 20s insecurities that are just quintessential to your experience. And if you're like me, you may still be experiencing it at 27. If you're in the mood to have a pity party with yourself, this is the record to do it to. But that is my record collection as of today. If you can't tell, I love collecting records. It is a really excellent way for me to listen to music properly and actually listen through albums. And it's interesting, probably only to me, that the albums I listen to like on streaming aren't necessarily the same ones that I want to buy on vinyl. Every single record I buy is such a timestamp of who I was and the music I was into at the time I bought it. I hope you enjoyed this incredibly self-indulgent video. That's kind of it. Bye.